You're watching PEGRI TV, Rhode Island's public access channel.
The wheel is turning and you can't slow down. You can't let go and you can't hold on. You can't go back.
Hello and welcome back into my wheelhouse. It is April 15th. The first 8 games of the NBA playoffs are in the books. Tiger Woods is a Masters champion.
He's back.
First time since what, 2005?
2008.
2008, okay. I'll give
11
him
years.
A little more credit, so that's exciting. That was running it. We got plenty of other stuff to talk about. I'm sure we'll touch on Virginia winning the national championship.
And with the 20th pick in the 2019 NBA draft, the Boston Celtics select Ty Jerome.
20.
Yeah, they picked 20th.
Yeah?
They're going to take Ty Jerome.
Why don't we pick him 22nd? We have 22nd pick.
No, we're going to grab him right at number 20.
20's too high. I'll take him 22nd.
We're taking him at 20.
That's too high.
We're going to package
I'm
those
excited about
picks.
that.
There's a lot of other stuff
Belichick.
that isn't really warranted talking about in contrast to the games. There's been a lot of coaching shakeups. The Kings hired Luke Walton. The Lakers are likely
Good
to
for Luke Walton.
hire either Monty Williams or Ty Lue. Obviously, we had the whole thing with Magic retiring. We're not going to talk about that.
Good.
Retiring or whatever. Pelicans brought in David Griffin. Good hire there for their front office.
Yes.
Larry Drew is out of Cleveland, and Bickerstaff is out of Memphis. I think that's it. So I'm sure there'll be more things to cycle in and out of those non-playoff contending teams in terms of how they're trying to reshuffle the books for the upcoming offseason and next year.
What a contrast the Clippers and Lakers are organizationally.
Yes, I mean, it came out just today that the reason Magic retired is because he didn't want to fire Luke and Pelinka or something.
But then Luke got fired the next day. How do you figure that?
He didn't want to do the business side of sports. He just wants to have fun.
He wants to be a good guy.
That's
he
pretty
wants to be a
silly.
smiley face.
Good luck with
It's
that.
better. The Lakers are better off for it. All right, what's the better 1 versus 8 matchup? I have a slice of pie delegated for every single matchup, but the 1v8s aren't really worth wasting too much time.
No, none
Because
at
they
all.
both
Blake,
suck.
It's easy.
Blake Griffin is out for the rest of the series.
It's over.
But Giannis is the most exciting player out of probably all 4 of these teams.
Yeah.
He dunked it from the free throw line the
That
other
was
day.
awesome.
That was
I
ridiculous.
Saw it. I saw it. It was really good.
But then on the other side, we got some monicum of excitement in terms of a more gritty matchup between the Warriors and the Clippers. I mean, we got Patrick Beverley enticing Kevin Durant into an ejection, which could come into play later in the postseason. So I think that's something interesting to play into if Beverley will continue to be under Kevin Durant's skin. So there's probably more storylines on the Western Conference end of this pairing, but which one are you more likely to enjoy watching?
I was listening to The Ringer before, and one of the producers is an avid Clippers fan, and he was saying, well, you know, it's been a good year. After game 1, he's already saying, it's been a good year. It was always going to be a sweep.
Yeah, of course.
But obviously, I think the Warriors are just going to steamroll them. And the Bucks are going to steamroll the Pistons, especially without Blake Griffin.
It's going to be ridiculous.
And I think Giannis is just much more fun to watch right now. And he's just, just steamrolling to the hoop, dunking on everybody, and then screaming out, I'm effing unstoppable.
No.
That's pretty cool.
I don't like the effing. But anyways, I'm going with Golden State and the Clips. I'm kind of enjoying that. I like the Clips, even though they got beat. I love Harrell and Williams. Yep. They're just so much fun to watch. And then I think I want to watch Golden State because Golden State obviously is at the pinnacle of their profession, and I got some questions about them. One of the questions I got, are they a better team with Boogie or JaVale McGee? I think they might be a better team with JaVale McGee.
JaVale McGee might be one of the most improved players.
And I don't know whether Boogie really helps them. And when I see when I'm looking at how the Clippers are attacking him, everybody's going to attack him the same way. Where they're going to go. Not this has happened with other players too, and we'll talk about some of the things that you've been right about that I'm seeing. But so for that reason, I kind of want to watch these guys. Beverley on Durant is an absolute joke. Yeah. That is ridiculous. Yes. That you would even play that matchup, because the only way that Beverley can play Durant is to get him agitated. That's it. There's no other possibility he's got. So you're playing into
But doesn't he have a point there? Isn't getting him agitated probably easier
but
than
Beverly's a
something
good
else?
defender.
He is an emotional midget.
Yeah, I think
but that's kind of a low,
not
a low blow, but
But
it's
I feel
kind
like the Pistons are trying to do the same thing with Giannis,
Yeah, but
like
it's
drumming
very ineffective.
through
Yeah,
Giannis, and Giannis is just like
I think
silly.
that for purposes of immediate pleasure, viewing the Pistons series, even though they're probably going to lose every game by 30, would be more appealing to me because Giannis is the most exciting thing in the NBA currently. The best player in the league threshold is absolutely something he could surmount. I would say he's probably favored out of anyone that is probably in the top 5 discussion to be that guy on top of the mountain at the end of this postseason, and he's starting off that candidacy strong currently. But on the flip side, there are more storylines that are going to be prevalent for longer in the Warriors versus Clippers matchup. The Clippers trying to prove that their trade assets are valuable, that this is a organization that has value and a strong culture that's been instilled, where their counterpart in LA is the complete opposite. So they're trying to attract free agents, and they're trying to show that they have valuable trade packages. And then their opponent, Golden State, you watch because you're hoping to find a kink in the armor, and it's maybe something as small as if Kevin Durant gets agitated to the point where he leaves the first round series with 3 technical fouls. Like that could be something that ends up weighing on them later in the season, even though I think that they would probably still win handily against any opponent without Kevin Durant. But I think that there's more to pay attention to on the West side. It's more exciting to watch the East side.
Yeah, well, on Golden State, those Steph and KD and even Dre and Clay, they're so tournament hardened, boy. They are really ready for the playoffs. They talk about flicking the switch. They have no problem flicking the switch. They know what it's all about, and they know exactly how to do it. Tremendous to watch them.
Does either 8 seed get 1 win?
I wouldn't.
Clips do. The Clips do.
I think Clips do. Clips get 1 game. Pistons absolutely not. I think
It's
Pistons lose by average of
Without
30.
Blake, it's an impossibility.
I think the Clippers might be, the ownership might be more interested in watching the Toronto series because they probably want Toronto to lose so bad so that Kawhi goes to the Clippers in the offseason.
And Detroit's one of those teams, one last thought, it's one of those teams that I just can't understand how they've gone with Reggie Jackson at the point for so long.
It's horrible.
I can't understand how
he's
Dwayne
just not
Casey actually played their best
Years.
player, Blake Griffin, with a foot injury,
Yeah.
saying that there's no
not
way.
that bad.
They said there's no way
Can't
that
get
if he
worse.
plays on it, it will get worse.
Not
and
very
now
smart.
he's not playing in the playoffs.
Because it got worse.
How about
He might get fired again.
How about how pathetic Casey looks?
It's
Yeah,
disappointing.
that's what I'm
kinda
saying. Yeah,
sad.
you might get fired again.
They need to get rid of him a long time ago. Speaking of Toronto versus Orlando, one of the surprise upsets, there were several in the first round, the Saturday game, Toronto Raptors. It was a much closer contest than some of the other upsets that we saw. It came down to a very exciting buzzer-beating miss from Kawhi Leonard that was preceded by an exciting three-point make from DJ Augustine, which was wide open, a kind of a defensive miscommunication between Marc Gasol and Kawhi. Something that doesn't happen often, but obviously it happened in this game. This series is interesting because I do think it's going to be a harder out than a lot of people predicted for Toronto. I think I would still predict Toronto in 5. Like, I think Toronto could very easily rattle off 4 straight. There's interesting things to pay attention to this series. On Toronto's side, we saw Kawhi perform at a strong level. I was expecting him to play a little bit more time. I think he only played 32 minutes. I was expecting him to play like closer to 40. Siakam was great, even though when he was defended by Jonathan Isaac, he was a little bit constrained. Lowry continued to be very, very consistent with his 0-point performance, 0 for 7. The box score will say that he contributed in other ways, but the eye test will say other things because I don't think he did anything positive at all. You get one positive thing from Kyle Lowry, they probably win this game. But I think obviously the storyline about this game is the Steve Clifford run defense and gritty play of the Orlando Magic. And their best player is Vucevic, but in this game it wasn't about the play of one player. Even though DJ Augustine did have 25 and 6 with a clutch bucket, I think it was more about the unity of the team and the energy and the camaraderie between Isaac and Gordon and Kem Birch, who I was in the when he was in the game, I was like, why is he getting playoff minutes?
Shay,
And
right
he
in
shut
line
me
with what
up.
you're saying. You know who I saw it with? Carter Williams.
Yeah, what the heck?
I mean, when's the last time you saw Carter Williams play like a player?
No,
I mean, he
you're
was
right.
talk about grit. I mean, all of a sudden he plays tough. Carter Williams is a soft player,
he's
but
terrible.
something's
And he
happening
played
with
great.
Steve Clifford. That's awesome what's happening there. I think that they've got They got some problems, Toronto. They got next game. These fans are going to turn in a hurry.
Yes, they're nervous.
And they're nervous. And you got Coach Nurse he's got an awful lot of pressure on him at
Awful
this point.
fashion as well.
So I think that there's no excuse for them not to win in 5. There's no excuse for Augustin outplaying Lowry to the max like that.
Yeah, but that doesn't surprise me.
Well, I mean,
Does that surprise you? Are you surprised?
Well, you surprised me in the sense that we
Well,
we looked at Orlando at the beginning of the year as a team without a point guard, and we
still don't have a point
said Augustin was not a point guard, and we did. And,
He's not. He's like a top 5 backup in the league.
Dominated that game. I would say weakness and you were right. Here's one where you were absolutely right. Marc Gasol does not improve that team in the way that I would have thought he would, and I think you pointed out before. I think he slows their defensive effort down so much that they're going to be forced to play Siakam at center.
Which is fine.
They got to go small.
They
Yeah, it
should
is, but
should do that.
but they got to take some minutes away from Gasol.
Yes.
He
slows him down on both ends of the floor.
He
He's very
really does.
slow-footed.
And
The one thing that he has is vision, and he's a good,
that's pretty much
good
it.
point center. But
I don't think
that's not going to work against a young run and gun team.
Right.
But it's like you said about the Warriors, they just seem to always click this time of year. Toronto always seems to unclick this time of year. They're never ready for the moment.
They should have got rid of Lowry.
I think they get in their own heads.
They were trying to.
I think they're like psychologically just depraved. Like they need more than what Nurse can offer. They need almost like a counselor.
Now, their fan base definitely is, and Lowry definitely is, but it shouldn't be as big of an issue. And something I thought, which was going to kind of make them be able to rise above all this noise, is Lowry is clearly their 3rd best player now. And his inability to perform shouldn't be as big of a deal. I understand it's much more dramatic when I say inability to perform, I'm thinking like, who cares if he only scores 10 points? And that's a lot different than scoring 0 points. But I think that even scoring 0 points, I think the ability of Kawhi and the aroused stardom of Siakam should be able to overcome that against a team that doesn't deserve to be able to beat them in a close game in the Orlando Magic. I think Siakam and Gasol play much better off one another than Kawhi and Gasol, surprisingly. I think what we're saying about Gasol being slower and him, maybe his offense being best suited for him being the creator, and he's the one who reads the defense and he uses his IQ, that doesn't pair well with Kawhi's isolation style where he decides when the shot's coming from. That pairs better with Lowry moving off ball and Siakam being a very deadly cutter. So I think earlier, leading up into the postseason, I was excited about Toronto because they showed that they could play a lot of different ways at a high level. And where you're looking for teams to have a niche play, it's something that's going to carry over to the next level. It was exciting that they had a lot of different ways where you think, okay, if something isn't working, maybe they'll be able to turn the tracks and go a different route. And that didn't really work in this game. And it was the complete opposite, and it was indecisiveness on how to play. And Nurse did a poor job in pairing the pieces and the puzzle pieces in an incorrect way.
I think what you're seeing is you're seeing Kawhi turn into a James Harden type player. A
little bit.
And you're seeing these 10, 12 dribble possessions by Kawhi where it's just him and everybody. I think it's realistic to question whether Kawhi's all in or all out. I just don't know.
We don't know. We don't know.
Right.
We don't know.
And I think this team's got problems. And if that next game ever goes south, I wouldn't want to be a player for Toronto.
I think that
and they play hard. I mean, look how hard Clifford's got them playing. He's playing with house money. We always say that.
Right. Similarly to how Kyrie's decision could be swayed by the improved play of Gordon Hayward, I do think that Kawhi's decision to sway could be completely altered by how Lowry maybe improves or continues to be more of the same in this series and hopefully for the rest of the playoffs.
Or by how bad Nurse manages
He's done
the team.
The first game he did poorly.
And well, yeah, I know, but I mean, like you were saying, it looks like it's coming down to they don't have a plan A, a plan B, or 3 or 4 things they can do.
Yeah.
They really have, and Kawhi, it's almost like he has to do this. It's like he has to take the ball and pound it.
Yes.
And
I really want to give a lot of love for Aaron Gordon and especially Jonathan Isaac. I think that these two players really came to play. And these are young guys. This is their first playoffs. Both of them were there defensively. They both hit huge shots late in this game. Aaron Gordon was a much bigger presence defensively, especially on Kawhi Leonard, than I was expecting him to be. And Jonathan Isaac was really, really imposing himself on both ends of the floor. I love both those guys, and as a front court tandem, they're much further along in terms of what I was expecting from them.
I don't think Isaac's been consistent. And
No,
I think he's had some really down times. But, you know, a guy that you don't like that I like a lot that I think continues to play well is Evan Fournier.
He did play well.
Yeah, I think it's more so that Orlando won than Toronto lost. I think they deserve a lot more credit than perhaps a lot of people are giving them, since such an upset to the outsider.
Yeah, do you see, so originally I had this pegged as a sweep. After watching this game, I think that they could win 4 straight. I think that Toronto in 6 would be my official prediction.
Well, going into the playoffs, Orlando had won 9 of 11
Exactly.
games.
Yes.
And
They were one of the hottest teams since
I think they had only lost like 5 times in their previous 23 games or something.
Yeah,
so I think that they can get to a game 6.
So for that reason, I think Orlando's going to beat them. I think
Orlando's beating them and taking them out.
I think Orlando's going to take them out.
I
I think we're seeing that happen right in front of our. Well, they played really well down the stretch, and they're playing.
They shot like 50% from 3. That's not going to continue.
Well, but they've been playing for a couple of weeks, maybe almost a month, steadily good and strong. I think
I'm changing my prediction because you say that. Toronto's winning 4 straight. Toronto in 5 games. Toronto in 5 games.
If Toronto loses a series, Nurse will get fired 2
Nurse
years
will get fired,
in a row.
absolutely.
And Dwayne Casey will get fired
come
2
back,
years in a
come
row.
back.
He'll get behind to Toronto.
It would be so weird.
That would be great.
Maybe they'll trade Kawhi for DeRozan.
All right, Philadelphia versus Brooklyn, our other Eastern Conference upset in the first game. A little bit more of a lopsided loss for the Philadelphia 76ers.
You can say that again.
Nets led for the majority of the game, other than I think the first 4 minutes. Nets were up essentially the whole game. The first half, they just had more intensity. They were the team that was on the floor. They were the team that was getting offensive rebounds. They were the team that was getting the loose balls. And they were up by several points at the half, even after Jimmy Butler hit that contested 3. And D'Angelo Russell was playing very, very poorly. And then the second half started, D'Angelo Russell showed up, and then they just continued to really show them out. And they had chances to really, like, maybe there was something there, a spark, and they would cut the lead to like 9, and then J.J. Redick would have like an open 3, and he would miss it, or T.J. McConnell would have a wide open look and wouldn't take it. But at the end of the day, I think this boils down to Joel Embiid, and he didn't look 100%. And it was obvious that he wasn't 100%. He was taking trips to the locker room. They were discussing that he was getting treatment before the game. And I think that why would they play him if there was a risk that he wouldn't be 100%? And I understand statistically he had a strong game. Most of his damage was done in that first quarter when he was probably high off that whatever PRP injection or whatever was going on. He got to the free throw line several times, time after time after time, getting Jared Allen into foul trouble. But once he traveled through the remainder of the game, he really started to dwindle in energy. He was lumbering more. And then the pick and roll play of the 3 dynamic guards on Brooklyn chewed them apart. And I think that that's something we saw all season long, and it reigns even truer than ever with D'Angelo Russell, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Karis LeVert. These 3 guys are a problem for the Philadelphia 76ers.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Why not just rest him the first 1 or 2 games, bring him back, and just trample over the Nets instead of play him when he's not fully, recovered or not ready, and then run the risk of hurting him long term. Because really, in the end, Embiid's always going to be good, whether he's out there on a half a foot or, with a nagging injury. He's always going to be good. But when he's fully healthy and able to really go closer to 100%, he's one of the most dominant players in the NBA.
Absolutely.
So, if you have him out there at only 60%, and you're not getting anything from Tobias Harris or J.J. Redick, you're going to have a lot of trouble.
Yes.
And I think 2 things are certain right now. If your perimeter shooting is not up to par, and if you don't have one of the top 5 superstars fully healthy, you're going to have trouble in this NBA playoffs.
The Nets shot 3 for 25 from 3.
They really struggled from the perimeter.
I'm way on a limb. I don't know whether I'm even going to come next week, but I think Brooklyn's got him. And I think Brooklyn's got
Brooklyn
him.
and Orlando.
That would be awesome.
That's why I said I might not even show up next week. But with Joel Embiid, he's been hurt a while now.
Yes.
Since the All-Star break, and he's been hurt with his knee.
He's been hurt as long as we've known him.
Once again, he's giving me that Roy Hibbert look again. Real sluggish, and he's gained a little weight. People are saying it. He's gained some weight. He kind of reverts to shooting the three too much.
Oh my God! Way too much.
Once he can't do it.
Shooting in general.
Shooting in general. So that's the kiss of death for this team.
Yes.
I think he has to come back, Sloan, because I think that's all you're going to get from him. I think he is having some troubles right now, and I don't know whether he's going to get any better. I don't know whether the rest of this stage is going to do him good. But I see some other problems on the team. I see exactly what you saw with the three guards, and the guy they crucified was Redick.
Yes.
Oh my
Absolutely.
God. They came down.
They tortured him.
And if you got, and there's no way Redick can't play one of those guys, Dinwiddie, LeVert, or Russell, and whoever he's got, he doesn't have a shot at him at all. And that really hurts Philadelphia, that they've got to take Redick out of the game. And he played 10 minutes less than he normally plays, and he's going to have to consistently play less because those guys play pretty good every single game.
Right.
And I think that's a big problem for him. The other problem I see is Simmons not shooting. Everybody knows this, but when you look at where Simmons goes when he doesn't shoot, it hurts the team because he goes down to the block and he stands on the block and he's looking for offensive rebounds or he's looking for his own post up. That hurts Harris. That hurts Butler. That hurts Embiid, and he's there all the time. I think we're seeing some things there that are shaping in a completely wrong direction for Philadelphia. I don't think the cell phone use was a good. It was not a big deal, but it's not something that in a playoff situation.
I don't think
you
it really
don't
matters.
need to be exposing yourself to that when you're down in a playoff game.
I don't think it really matters. Amir Johnson was looking at his phone after the game. They said that like Amir Johnson's daughter was sick.
Who knows?
But he still got
Who
fined.
knows?
So
Who
it was
knows?
very unusual.
But I mean, it reflects on Coach. To me, it reflects on
about
Coach Brown. I think Brown is.
He got out-coached.
Yes,
Undoubtedly, he got
yes,
destroyed.
and I think that's.
Kenny
I think,
Atkinson did a marvelous
I think,
job.
If
I
his
think that's
daughter's
a
sick, he
factor.
shouldn't be there.
Yes,
You
I
know, if
agree.
it's
That's
that big of a thing, then he
Amir
should
Johnson
be
didn't
with
do
her.
One of the questions I had on the Nets that I think was answered for me was Allen's not strong enough to play. But so who's going to? I said Ed Davis is going to have to step up, and obviously. But Jared Dudley?
He played great defense in the
He played
post.
27 minutes.
He was drawing
He hasn't
fouls.
played 27 minutes in the last month.
Jared Dudley is one of the best defenders in the NBA.
Well, but he's not that tall,
He
and he
is.
can't jump, and he's like the
He
Pillsbury
absolutely is.
Doughboy.
Every time I've seen him in the
anyways,
past year,
they are
he
making
locks
up.
down.
I'll give you highest IQ.
Okay, all right.
The highest IQ is probably a lot closer.
so,
but they're making up for Allen. Ed Davis was awesome.
This team is very deep.
He may be the best rebounder minute for minute in that league.
Oh, there's stats that will back that statement
back
up.
it up,
Absolutely.
yeah.
He had 16 boards and limited minutes on this game. And this team is very deep, and Atkinson clearly has a strong connection and a knowledge of what works where, who works with who, and when to push what buttons on Philadelphia. His scheming of Tobias Harris and J.J. Redick as clearly the only two shooters on this entire Philadelphia Sixers roster was immaculate. He limited these guys' shot attempts. They were just letting the rest of the Philadelphia Sixers shoot as many threes as they want. Jimmy Butler, sure, you can shoot threes. Embiid, sure, you can shoot threes. Yep. If your name isn't Tobias Harris or J.J. Redick, who only combined to attempt 6 3-pointers, 2 above 40% three-point shooters, the only floor spacing that this Philadelphia Sixers team has went 1 for 6 combined in threes. J.J. Redick was infuriated. He was frustrated, and he could not, as you say, he could not handle that three-headed snake. He fouled out because of it, and it just bled into the rest of the team. And once that spacing wasn't there, once Redick was on the bench, and once Harris was the only person that the defense needed to pay attention to on the perimeter, everything else went to crud. And Jimmy Butler is a floor raiser, but he's not someone that can carry your team to victory when the rest of your pieces are coalescing so poorly. And you're saying Ben Simmons' inability to shoot is a problem. I say him not shooting is a problem. I need him to play his game. He wasn't playing his game. He wasn't getting downhill in transition. He wasn't pushing his strength and his force on the will of DeMar Carroll. Why is DeMar Carroll stopping Ben Simmons?
Yep.
This doesn't make any sense. He's trying to play a half-court game. He's seeing Jimmy Butler depend on himself and scoring 21 first-half points and saying, okay, we need to slow down and Jimmy Butler needs to play half-court. No, screw that. You need to get on the run.
I agree.
You need to push the thing. I don't care if you're going to go to the free throw line and you're going to only shoot 50%.
Yep.
You need to impose your will on that team to stress the Nets defense out to the point where it gets them in foul trouble, and hopefully something will ricochet off that.
Yeah, he's not strong-willed enough. He has the ability and the potential to be like a real dominant tempo-setting player, but he actually, like what you're saying, he goes with the tempo that the other team is dictating.
Yes, you're
and
right.
he too often falls victim to opposing coaches and opposing teams' strategies.
Well, look what the Celtics did to him.
Yes.
And it's really
He's
a
not going to win
problem
any
for them.
chess matches.
Well,
anytime
it's
soon.
just like it'll be a 2-on-2 or even a 1-on-2 or a 3-on-3 fast break, and he'll pull the ball out. And it's just like, why would you ever do that? If you're one of the most athletically dominant players that simultaneously has just elite vision, why would you take your strengths out of the game? And playoff basketball is so much about maximizing your strengths and minimizing your weaknesses. And Ben Simmons is doing the complete opposite.
But doesn't this all reflect on Brown?
Yes, I think so.
I think it
100%.
does. I
think
mean, what you
1,000%.
just said about
1,000%.
isn't playoff basketball, what you just said, Matt,
1,000%.
that's a coach's job to maximize your
Because
weaknesses. and limit your
Budenholzer would have him playing like a top 5 player.
So Atkinson's a pop guy, right?
Yeah, Atkinson has
We're
been
seeing
fantastic.
pop all over this playoffs
He's
right
doing
now.
good. He's doing good. Yeah, we can spin it.
with a lot of similar
So
strategies.
you got Nets with a victory, Sloan. What do you got for games in this series? Sixers versus Nets.
Oh, I got Philly in 6.
I got Philly in 6 as well. All right, Houston versus Utah. Probably one of the more surprising outcomes of the weekend. Houston really took it to the Utah Jazz. They won by, I think, 32. 122-90 was the final score. James Harden was stellar as usual. We saw the really weird, gimmicky defense. The Eric Bledsoe, that defense that we saw was really beneficial for them. Didn't really work on this end where Ricky Rubio was trying to overload the left side and funnel him into the paint to Gobert, which in theory sounds like it would be a good scheme for the Utah Jazz, but it really wasn't working. Harden was taking it to Gobert all night long, and for that matter, the entire Houston Rockets team was taking it to Gobert all night long. Statistically, box score-wise, Gobert looks like he had a good game. He was horrible. I thought he played really, really bad. This is why I give him a lot of props as an elite regular season defender. That him being on your team immediately means you're going to have a top 5 defense in the NBA for the course of a full NBA season. But once you get into the defense that in the playoffs where the offenses are going to have time to scheme against one defense for a set amount of games, he's proving over and over and over again that if there's a good coach on the other side of the court, that his weaknesses are going to be so heightened that his effectiveness is going to be completely minimized. And he was a huge problem. I mean, even when he was in the game and when they were taking shots at the rim, Houston was shooting like around 70% at the rim with Gobert there. They were getting into him and they were frustrating him. And this probably is the series that I've changed my thought process most about. I thought this was going to be like a Houston in a tight 7. And I'm leaning more towards like Houston in 5, and like if I don't see anything from Utah in tomorrow night's game, I wouldn't be surprised if Houston swept this team. James Harden is too good.
I got a sweep. Yeah, I've got Houston in a sweep. I think Houston, Milwaukee, and Golden State are so far and away the strong teams in this league that it's like we talk a lot about parity in this league, but then we see just these 3 teams just imposing their will against teams, and it's like there's no way the other teams in the playoffs can compete with these 3 teams.
Yeah, I think the first thing you said with Harden was stellar. I think he's more stellar than usual.
He looks incredible.
This is as good as I've seen Harden play.
In the
And
playoffs, I think.
Well, it's also since the
pretty good in
All-Star
the
break. I don't know whether it's but with playoffs only had 1 game so far. He had a stretch in that first half that was a 13-2 run, and Harden had 5 assists in that 13-2 run that were beautiful. I mean, that strategy was just not working. I don't care. I mean, whatever. Who tried it and it did work? Somebody tried it and it did work. But what Harden showed is he's adjusted to that completely. Right. Well, he took it into that lane and he hit different players. He hit Tucker with 1. He hit Capella with a shovel underneath. He hit Gordon for 3, all with perfect timing. And then he hit a step-back 3 from the corner that was played inside that. So in that run, he just dominated play in a way that I think Harden is at the very top of his game.
He's like a cheat code.
I'm starting to. I know a lot of, Matt doesn't like Harden. Dan doesn't like Harden. I'm starting to like this guy.
I mean, he's incredible. He's one of the best passers in the league, and he
think
doesn't
with
get
Chris
that respect
Paul
off.
out there, maybe healthy, it helps a lot. Once in a while, they actually get Harden out and they put the ball in Paul's hand and isolate him. On Utah's side, I think Rubio was really bad.
He's terrible.
And he's supposed to be a defender.
That's a joke.
I mean, he's not. And then Donovan Mitchell had 0 assists and 5 turnovers.
Yes, that's bad.
Well, we've been talking for a while about how Donovan
Well,
Mitchell
he's had a
isn't
pretty good
enough of a
second half.
playmaker. Like,
Yeah.
Like, he had a great year last year in that he showed how dynamic of a scorer he is. But, you know, once you lock him down and he can't ever pass the ball to an open, like, he's so night and day with James Harden. Because James Harden just always seems to have such unbelievable vision, whereas Donovan Mitchell seems to sometimes be blind.
I love Donovan Mitchell, and I think that this season, he started off the season really slow, and he was struggling.
Yeah. And this is a really hard matchup for them.
Yes, exactly. And his shot wasn't falling in the beginning of the year. And then for the last 3 quarters of the year, he got back to that amazing level where he was averaging nearly 23, 24 a game, and he was an elite scorer at such a young age. And I think that Rubio clearly isn't the right player to play with Mitchell, even though in theory a defensive, a strong passing point guard would be someone that would pair well with him. It's Rubio isn't consistent enough of that. And,
Good point.
And Mitchell, he needs to watch some Devin Booker film, which is funny because I think Devin Booker is not as good as Donovan Mitchell. But I think just in terms of play style, in terms of reading a defense and just being able to be aware of your teammates' locations and not get stressed out when you get pressured, he struggles with that. And I think as time goes on, I think even in this series, game to game to game, we're going to see him play better.
Yes.
But the other part of this team, there's not enough there, and Houston is too good, and the other aspects of their team that aren't James Harden are too active defensively, and they're similar to how Kenny Atkinson and the Nets are scheming so that J.J. Redick and Tobias Harris are getting no open looks, and everyone else can have as many looks as they want. It's a very similar situation that's happening in this team, and they're letting Royce O'Neal shoot threes, and they're letting Jay Crowder shoot threes, and they're letting Thabo Cephalosha shoot threes, but they are closing out hard on Joe Ingles, and they are shutting down on Donovan Mitchell if he's open at the perimeter. And I think that those things, we saw that those 3 bad shooters, O'Neal, Crowder, and Thabo, I think they shot a combined 2 for 15 from 3. So when you see a stat like, oh, Utah went 7 for 28 from the 3-point line, you think, well, that's going to regress back to the mean. But in reality, it's a scheme that's repeatable by the Houston Rockets, and I don't know, besides Donovan Mitchell playing a little bit better in terms of what his offensive output is, I don't know what is going to get that much better for the Utah Jazz in this series.
Yeah, they might have peaked last year in the playoffs. They played. I don't know how much better they can play either.
Well,
they might win Utah. They're pretty tough in Utah.
This is a terrible matchup. I mean, if they were up against I don't even know.
The Thunder.
Yeah, the Thunder.
Maybe the Blazers.
Another thing that needs to be is Houston's bench is much improved, and I think Fareed brings energy to the court, plays a lot. He's 6'8", and he's
active.
He really helps, and I think even Rivers helps them, like I've mentioned before.
All these guys do.
And they didn't have that last year at all. I'm also seeing great toughness. Gordon's playing good right now, and P.J. Tucker. They bring this toughness to the team that I think they're pretty complete compared to last year.
Even if the Rockets weren't as deep and as offensively sound as they are, they would still be able to lock down the Jazz because they just don't have scorers. Like the Rockets are
They might win one in Utah, but I don't think they're doing much more.
I agree with you. So you're saying you got a sweep? I think I changed it. Like I said before, I had 7 games. I think I'm going 5. Houston in 5. What do you got?
I'm pretty much the same thing. I think they're going to win 1 in Utah. I don't think they can win 2 in Utah, and that'll be it.
Houston in 5. I think they look forward to hopefully an exciting matchup in the second round with the Warriors.
I might even be right about that one.
All right, San Antonio Spurs against the Denver Nuggets. Another upset, a 2-7
We
upset.
called this one.
Yes, we did. It was more reasonable, more predictable of an upset than some of the other ones. 101-96. It was absolutely a Popovich-motivated victory, a good team basketball win. Their shot chart looked similar as it looked all year. Not a lot of three-point attempts, but the three-point attempts that did go up, they went
Only
in.
15.
They went in. Yeah, they shot 48% from 3. They shot a lot of mid-rangers. I thought that their best player was Derek White. I don't think it was LaMarcus Aldridge. I actually think Nikola Jokic played pretty fantastic defense on Aldridge, actually. I think that Aldridge's offensive game actually isn't one that can take advantage of Nikola Jokic's defense's pitfalls. I think that Jokic's strength and his IQ really pairs well in terms of how to defend a player like Aldridge, who doesn't depend on athleticism and speed, but he depends on footwork and IQ as well. So I think that that's a positive for Denver looking forward in the rest of the series.
Yep.
And even though DeRozan had a nice stat line, I didn't like a lot of what I was seeing from him. He was forcing the ball a lot. I thought his best imprints on the game were how he was playmaking for his teammates. But overall, I think the storyline of the game is Derek White. He was incredible. I don't know if I put him on my all-defensive team, but if I didn't, he needs to be on that second team. His defense, especially clutch on Jamal Murray, that steal at the end of the game to essentially close the game out, he's showing that he is big enough for this moment. He is giving the keys to be the person that can imprint the game most on both ends of the floor. The best dunk, the best highlight of the playoffs so far, him dunking on Millsap, an absolute thunderous dunk. And I still think I would have Denver to win this game, win this series, because they shot so horribly this game. And it's opposite of what we're seeing in these other series, where it's schematically players are getting really situationally pushed out of shots that they like, and they're making bad shooters shoot the shots. This was just Will Barton and a bunch of people were just shooting poorly that normally shoot good. So I think that it's more likely to bounce back for Denver. They have more things that they can fix and really make amends for, whereas other teams that are down, I'm less confident in. So I think I'm going to stick with Denver in 7 despite this loss.
I might agree with you there. I think it was very interesting strategy by Pop, and it's hard to believe it worked. And I don't know whether it would continue to work, but he continually blitzed Jokic and double-teamed Jokic.
Oh yeah,
and
they threw the kitchen sink at him.
Told the other guys, maybe because it's their first series and it's the first time they've ever played in the playoffs and they're not ready for it, but their starters went 3 for 22 from the three.
It worked.
I can't see long range how that's going to work, but I mean, I trust Pop.
Exactly it.
But, I mean, if Jokic would have had 20 assists in that game. If those guys were just hitting a little bit, he would have had 20 assists.
He was playing great to what he was
that's
given.
a weird strategy.
He had a triple-double,
Yes.
and they were clogging him. They threw the kitchen
and they were
sink
giving
at
the
him.
guys the shots.
They
How
were-
can that work?
They were just converging on him.
Yeah,
But
so-
yeah, Jokic, he's going
They
to
gotta
find
adjust
the
that.
open players, and they haven't been that bad almost all year.
They've
maybe
had
a
bad
handful of games
stretch.
where they
The
shot
last
that poorly.
month,
Torrey Craig
they
was
haven't
the best
shot well
shooter
from
in
the
this game.
three.
That's a sign of how the game
Never
went.
good.
You know,
And I'm
that's a
sure
sign.
Pop saw that,
like
that
a
over the
hockey player.
last the last 30 days, they have not shot that well from the three.
No,
those guys.
but I think that's something that is important for this game and moving forward. Looking at the young core of the Denver Nuggets, is my nervousness about Jamal Murray's ability to be the second best player on a strong playoff team. I think maybe he is more well suited to be the third or fourth piece. And in this game where they were really defensively scheming on Jokic, and Jokic did a great job when he was getting triple teamed at sometimes. He was always, as we say, he was always finding the open guy. He was
They got to
always
make him pay for that.
he was making the right decision always.
Yes.
But that was putting the responsibility on the shoulders of, more often than not, Jamal Murray. And Jamal Murray did not show up. He shot 8 for 23, and in his clutch shots that you want him to have, he wasn't able to hit those. And moving forward, I think that he's more likely to be able to succeed if he's the third fiddle. And something that was exciting for this game is the somewhat return of Gary Harris. And Gary Harris has been unhealthy all year long, and he's been struggling to find his shot and find his aggressiveness, kind of struggling similar to how we see Gordon Hayward struggling in Boston in terms of how we want him to play. Gary Harris is struggling with that same thing. But in this game, he got back to the DHOs with Jokic. He got back to the backdoor cuts and back to the constant off-ball movement and catching the ball and attacking the hoop immediately. He was getting to the free throw line, and he was being extremely efficient. And Gary Harris needs to be this team's second best player if they hope to go far in the playoffs. So,
Somebody's got to step up.
what do you think? Do you think Denver's got it even still?
I think it's going to be really tight, and they've got one in Denver, which is amazing that they were able to get a victory there.
I was really disappointed in the atmosphere. They talk about this being one of the best home courts that you see, and I thought the crowd was very flat. I thought they were very flat.
I don't think the fans believe in that team.
I don't think they do either. I think you're 100% right. You could hear them groaning when things went wrong and not cheering enough.
And
when
on
things went
Twitter,
right.
they're attacking Jokic because he took 9 shots.
Yeah,
but like we
I
talked about, he was
I'm saying
triple
it's very
teamed.
similar to how
They don't understand basketball.
That wasn't the nature of the
very
game.
similar to how the Timberwolves responded last year to the team. the fan base and stuff. They just weren't in it.
They were like, okay.
Yeah.
Guy had a triple
We're in the playoffs. Good. Yeah, we made the playoffs. Nice.
Yeah.
I sit
I'd
back
be
and watch.
psyched to have
Nothing left to
Jokic.
do now. We made the playoffs.
I-
We finished second in the league. You haven't made the playoffs in how many years, you know?
But I still think,
they're just not ready for the energy.
given the fact that Jokic's teammates went 33 of 79 and shot 24% from three, I still think
They got to make
it's a
them pay.
5-point loss.
Right, and
like
actually,
you said, if
Murray
it-
was shooting a shot with 10 seconds left. That
if
would have
his
won the game.
teammates shot a little bit better,
Yeah.
I mean, they're winning that game.
The
So
looks were
I
there.
still have Denver in 6.
Denver
Yeah.
in 6. I like it. That was my original pick, but
Okay.
I just moved it back because they lost this first game that I thought they should have won. Denver in 7.
I mean, really, San Antonio
We'll see
should
what
have won
Pop
by
does
15.
next.
So.
Pop may have more tricks up his sleeve.
Yeah, incredible coaching job. Absolutely. You already did that one. You were doing good. That was the first
I
repeat
was.
spin. That was very impressive.
We haven't got too much left.
I wasn't going to mention it.
Portland OKC. Okay, one of the couple series we have yet to talk
Dame
about.
Dog.
So this game was really about essentially the first quarter. Portland went out, so they won the game 104-99. Portland went out to a really, really strong, hot start. They scored 39 first quarter points, really based off of the incredible play of their top 3 players, essentially, which was Lillard. CJ McCollum looked much more spry than he had since coming back from the injury. I thought his imprint on the game was something really positive for them moving forward. And then probably the storyline of the game is Enes Kanter, who is a real threat on the offensive glass, and his consistency and dependability down low, just in terms of his patience, was really strong. And I thought that from then on out, the second quarter out, the Portland got outscored by like 10 points. And that's when you saw OKC's defensive chops start to kick in. They limited Portland to, I think, only 15 points in the second quarter. It just ended up not being enough of a push from there to the end of the game to get that win. And I think that out of all the games, I had OKC in 7 initially, and I don't know. Now I have no clue what's going to happen. And I think that I might switch it. I might pick Portland in 7, but I think it's going to be based more off Paul George, because I think Paul George is hurt. I think that we see him, as soon as he checks out of the game, he's got a hot wrap on that shoulder. He's got KT tape all over his arms and shoulders. Before the game, he was giving quotes where he couldn't lift his arms above his head.
He said the day before he could not shoot a basketball.
Yes, that's very troubling. Similar to Embiid, he was probably getting injections before the game so that he couldn't feel his pain. That's a problem for this team. He got blocked 5 times in the first half, and it was all on moves where in the heyday of his season, he was double pumping and extending, and this he was just holding, and you could tell it was because he was just trying to use his body and not move, and he wasn't dynamic enough, and that's a huge problem for them.
It's kind of like the case with Embiid, what you said about how he had a good stat line, but if you actually watched the game, you saw he's not right. No. And if he's not right, then that team's not right, because they cannot shoot 3-pointers, and they rely a lot on Paul George to play like an MVP.
I'm liking the Blazers a lot. And I
love their chemistry. They're fantastic.
You know what? We never talked about Yusuf Nurkic. We talked about him the week before he went down. We never talked about how devastating of a loss that was.
Well, we did. Because I think I.
But I gotta say, Enes Kanter.
You know, not to, I brought Kanter to the table.
You said they were going to be. No, props on that.
I thought that was a very fortunate thing, and that he was ready to play.
I do think.
I didn't think he was going to fill the shoes this admirably.
I do think there'll be a game coming up where he gets attacked and it's a problem. But that's okay.
Defensively, Adams is a very good matchup for him, because he can play positionally. He doesn't have to worry about doing anything. But he's not going to. Steven Adams is really good, but he's no Joel Embiid when Joel Embiid's Joel Embiid. So Kanter can play positionally on him, and that allows him to not be as much of a liability defensively. I like Kanter's. I like his whole personality. I like everything that's going on with him, and I like the team. I like Stott. Yeah. I mean, I think you brought to the table how good Lillard is and how under the radar. I think they might be something that's ready to happen. I'm really rooting for them. I'm rooting for that team in the West. That's the team that I'm rooting for the most.
I think Lillard can really expose Russell Westbrook as far as perimeter defense is concerned.
It's also really
he gives Lillard way too much space certain times, and then other times
his range is too deep.
Other times you can tell he's not ready for the lateral quickness that Lillard has.
And Westbrook had a good game. Westbrook played good.
The other thing that
I mean, he gave up the big crucial three-pointer that he gave up to him, he had way too much space.
He pulled from 32 feet.
The other thing that developed
He can do that.
I know.
Read the
think
scouting report.
fan interest from a lot of fans, certainly me, is how hotly contested the series is.
Yes.
And you got
They hate each other.
Oh God,
those
you got
teams
Westbrook and Lillard, you got McCollum. That volatility is really
That's great.
pretty neat.
It's good
you know?
playoff basketball.
I would pay $100 to see Lillard and Westbrook fight each other.
Yeah, that would be great. I like it a lot. I think it's going to be probably the most competitive series out of any of these first-round matchups. I think it goes 7. I think it's completely hinged on Paul George's health.
Yeah.
If he continues to be icing his shoulder and heating his shoulder as soon as the game, as soon as he's checked out, then they're going to lose. But I think that their defense is enough, even with Paul George's lacking health, to get them to 7 games. On the flip side, I think that Aminu and Mo Harkless, their aggressiveness on Paul George has been really impressive. So I like this matchup. This is one of the more exciting matchups that we have in this first round. Portland in 7.
I agree with that.
Good. I like Paul.
I like that they're underdogs at home.
They are.
They're like, you know what? Call us underdogs. We're a full team.
Hey, we only got 2 things left on the board, I think.
We'll
and
see
they're
if we get to 'em.
Both big ones.
Nope.
Give me some. No, man.
There's only the Celtics and the NBA, so
Choose
just take one of the
more
others.
spread,
You just
one
go
more. Boston,
Celtics.
Indiana. All right. So we got a very convincing win in the first round, the ugliest game in terms of scoring output that we had in the playoffs so far. I believe it was one of the lowest playoff totals in the past 4 years, I think. So we won Boston Celtics won 84-74. It was a very slow start, 20-20 after the first quarter. Celtics only scored 38 points in the first half. It wasn't until the third quarter where our defense really clamped down and offense started to flow a little bit more. The Boston Celtics limited the Indiana Pacers to only 8 points in that third quarter. And
2 field goals.
Defensively, from Kyrie Irving to Al Horford to Jaylen Brown to Marcus Morris to Jason Tatum to Gordon Hayward, everyone was in it. Everyone was motivated defensively. Everyone was locking down. That was one of the best defensive games I've ever seen Jaylen play. He was all out there, and Kyrie, more of the same from him as well. They only had 2 players score in double digits, and it was just barely.
Joseph led them with 14.
Bogdanovich had 12, and Jošević, as you said, had 14. So they had a very poor shooting game. They shot 33 and 22 from the 3. They even shot poorly from the free throw line. So I think that they were a little rattled. Their offense was struggling, and without a primary prominent creator on this team, that role kind of just falling on Bogdanovich's shoulders, I think that their offense is going to continue to be not enough firepower to be able to match up with the Celtics, especially when this team is grinding defensively as they did in this game 1.
This is the lowest combined total all season in the NBA.
All season.
All season, yeah. I had to look that up. I was like, unbelievable. But whereas we talked about Orlando beating Toronto more than Toronto lost to Orlando, I think this was more so the case that the Pacers just really stunk. They lost this game more than the Celtics won. I'm encouraged by the fact that they came out strong defensively in the third quarter. I've talked all season about their third quarter woes, and I like the fact that they were with it all 4 quarters. But I don't think playing a team this crummy right now is good for the Celtics. I think this is going to be bad momentum for the Celtics.
I disagree with that. I think it's exactly what they need. They need to build some momentum. So they need any kind of momentum they can get. And if they can,
we're not going to be ready for Milwaukee.
I think winning a series is so important to them right now.
Of course.
Realistically, this could be the last go-through with this team. I mean, they may not be together after this year, this Celtics team, and this is now. They've got to do it right now.
I'd just almost rather they win against a more talented team like Brooklyn and then be prepared for the second.
Shea is correct. In Brad and Danny talk, defensively, they were more connected and they had better resolve. Those are 2 Brad and Danny words, but they definitely did. And I think that's important. And if that's all they get out of this series is that more connectedness and that better resolve, I think it bodes well going forward I'm not sold on the team completely at this point, but I think
so ugly.
It
that was
was,
the worst game.
And I agree with Sloan too. That start of the third quarter, they were they only had how many points in the first 9 minutes, and the only
basket was a goaltend.
Was a goaltend,
They had
and
two field goals
and
in
they
the
missed
third
lots
quarter.
of
One
open,
field goal, one
and they
was a
did
goaltend.
miss lots of open shots. So it was a combination of those two
like
things
Little League.
happening. One thing I'm getting a little still. Kyrie's still a little bit of. He still agitates me a little bit. I don't buy him as the playoff guru, as the guy that knows everything about the playoffs and knows how you. I mean, he's done it once. He's done it. I mean, without LeBron, he's never. I don't really think he. I wish he would
I'm
just
sick
be
of
quiet
hearing him talk.
completely.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear him talk about what
You
needs to be
just
done in
mute
the
it.
playoffs.
Doesn't matter. Just watch him play. He's fantastic.
I just think if the Bucks played the Pacers and the Pacers played like that, the Bucks would have won 150 to 75.
Yeah, I think the Bucks they're a juggernaut right now, and I agree with you somewhat there.
How you can't even get to 90?
But
with
I
the
think
Pacers playing like that is beyond me.
we may also see some upsets. Look what I'm picking. I'm picking Brooklyn and Orlando. We may see some upsets going forward. That the Celtics really that it's going to be a one-time deal with Milwaukee. And I don't think anybody's going to hold it against this team if they play hard against Milwaukee and lose. I mean, Milwaukee's that good.
I agree with you. I think that because of the acclaim that Milwaukee has gotten this season, because they have the best record in the league, because they have the MVP and my pick for Defensive Player of the Year, because they probably have the unsung future #1 player in the league, if we fight that team as Boston Celtics and get to 6 or 7 hard-fought games, but we lose, I think that that's going to be considered less of a failure than if we got our crap to bed against the Sixers or after beating the Raptors.
I agree with that too. That could be a real camaraderie booster for this team, and it could reinforce the notion that they are contenders.
Not to jump the gun, but just to say it again.
All I'm saying is that I just don't think that the Pacers prepare us for the Bucks as well as another matchup.
I think that this team, the Pacers team, is gritty and they fight and they're aggressive.
They play hard defense.
They're like poke your eyes out when you
they're aggressive off ball, and that type of initiation to a playoff setting is something that can galvanize a team. And the play that I'm seeing, the aggressiveness that I'm seeing offensively from Gordon Hayward against this defensive
Hayward's
scheming,
definitely he's not struggling anymore.
No, he looks great. He's
not
imposing
struggling.
himself fantastically
playing
on
well.
the game. And I just love what I'm seeing from Jalen. This is like all NBA defense from Jalen. I need to see more of that. And Kyrie's there too. Al Horford has been, his defense in that game was remarkable.
Not to nitpick on Jalen, but what was he doing? And did anything happen to him that made him respond like that? With
That was weird.
Yeah, it's almost like the time he gave the double flex. It's like it was so odd with them being ahead like they were and in control. You didn't want to feed Indiana anything for their locker room, and I thought he was way off base on that. I thought he was completely wrong.
He's like puzzlingly cerebral.
Something's
You don't really know
yeah.
what's going on in his head.
I mean, all he did is feed Indiana some.
I disagree. I think that fired up the Celtics more than it fired up
but
Indiana.
why did he do it?
Oh, well, because
I didn't see him.
It looked like he was frustrated at Miles Turner for like hitting him awkwardly on the screen or something
but then
like that.
Bogdanovich did nothing to him.
I mean, Jaylen Brown completely assassinated the Indiana's pick and roll. Their pick and roll didn't stand a chance against Jaylen Brown. Jaylen was doing whatever he wanted.
He replaced Smart on Bogdanovich without any problem at all.
He completely locked him down.
That shuts that team down.
If he played defense like that all 82 games,
another team can't play defense on Bogdanovich like that. I think Bogdanovich can hurt teams, and he has proven to be somebody that has been a good player since Oladipo's gone out. The Celtics do a number on him, and that's going to take care of the series. Indiana's better than what you're seeing, especially with Oladipo out. They're not a bad team.
Well, I mean, obviously
they
better
just
than
have
that.
no firepower.
Yes, they're doing that. Marcus Morris' first half was promising. Hopefully he can be. I like that he only took like 11 shots. I think he shot below 45%, which is fine. But
he played like he plays.
Yes, he doesn't play like he plays. He
did.
played better
he had
than
about
he
the same
plays.
percentage of
No,
shots.
yeah, that's an untrue statement.
He played
because
way better.
sometimes he forces
He
shots.
played way better
He
than
had
he
the
plays.
same number of rebounds. He had a couple more points. He had the same shot, the same percentages.
My opinion with him is the same as with Smart. I don't care if he takes shots as long as they're good shots.
Exactly.
I
He takes
thought
a lot of
they
bad
were
shots.
tough shots.
No, this
They
wasn't.
were
this wasn't the
25 footers.
isolation.
When he came in off the bench, those were 25-foot shots.
They were more in the flow of the offense than his
He's good off the
doldrum
bench.
offense.
He's somebody himself. He calls himself whatever he calls it. He can play either way, and I think he is good off the bench.
Hopefully, it's more of the same.
Yeah,
and
we
in
need
that third quarter, when we went on that good offensive run, he wasn't involved. So I like that he was keeping us in the game when we were struggling offensively because he was able to perform, and that's when we do need him. That's when we do need him. I've talked about that before.
Yep.
When Kyrie, even though he wasn't playing poorly,
He's got a good attitude for hard play.
Yes, he does.
Helps.
It's a very positive outlook. Even though I understand what you're saying.
I do
the
too.
Pacers team stinks. The Pacers team is
It's
bad.
the best matchup we could have.
The Pacers team is probably
Without
seventh,
Oladipo,
probably the seventh best team
they're a
in the
weak
Eastern
offensive
Conference
team.
playoffs, right? Probably the seventh best team in the Eastern Conference playoffs. They're better
They're
than
going to
the
rely on
Pistons.
Miles Turner to
Better than the
score.
Pistons without Griffin.
Better than the
Yeah,
Pistons.
that's true.
Better than the Pistons.
But
Better than the
I mean,
Pistons.
when you got to rely on Miles Turner to score your points, you're in trouble. He's not a scorer.
That's another thing. I
not a scorer.
think that we're going to see a different Pacers team moving forward. We're not going to see Miles Turner and Domantas Sabonis and Thaddeus Young combined for 11 points. Like, that's not going to happen again. Like,
No.
even though our defense was
it'll
reason
be
to be
Sabonis.
ecstatic about, this team was missing shots that they normally make. I understand that we schemed them properly and we were forcing them into difficult mates, but they did miss shots that they normally make.
But we can play better too.
We can play better too. All right, let's close it out. University of Virginia basketball got the exciting victory over Texas Tech. Ty Jerome played a very good game, but the story of the game was definitely DeAndre Hunter. His second half was really, really nuclear for this team. He had some big clutch shots. Victory lap for your team.
Yeah.
Not afraid of the moment.
I'm a zealot, and I know zealots are a pain in the ass. So I don't want to keep doing it. I've been through this before, being a zealot about other things, but it was tremendous. It's total fan immersion when you're in that position. Anybody that didn't get it with this team, it's their loss. It was Hunter's best game.
Yes,
that
it definitely was.
I've watched
I
Hunter
agree.
play. I've watched Hunter play 70 games.
He had a
That
tough
was
first
his-
half.
It still was. I think
No,
it
but
still was his best
it was the best game he played, and he on
He
both
looked like a
both
star.
ends of the
He looked
floor.
like an NBA player.
He played cover really well.
I love that matchup. The two of them
Yeah,
going
it's a
at each
beautiful
other.
matchup.
There was a really mirroring presence between the two of them, and I love them. Both of them shot the ball really poorly in the first half. The first half was somewhat of a slog, but it really picked up.
That's why I didn't understand. A lot of people were downplaying this championship
It ended up being
match,
fantastic.
and I really liked those two players.
So when we came in today, I know that we saw a rainbow in the sky, and Corey goes, there's no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And I turned to Shay and I said, yeah, but is there a such thing as destiny? And when you look at this team, you got to at least think that. It's like those were 3 miracle wins, down by 3 points with them in the closing seconds of an Elite Eight, a Final Four. Whew, that's kind of tough to understand how that could happen.
I felt like it was fate after was it the Purdue game where Diakite got it off right as time expired and pushed it into overtime. It just felt like it was their moment. It was their time. It was like serendipitous. And just the story,
the story. As much as you guys didn't really want to buy in it last time, that story is as good as you're going to hear in a sports setting. I don't think it gets much better now. I'm trying to think of examples. I really can't think of too many. I would say that second half was really pretty. When you look at all the points that were scored and how high octane everything was, and the defense was played, but the points were scored the same way.
I really liked Diakite. His pick and roll defense, like he was timing it perfectly.
Very quick feet.
Coming off the screen, getting keeping an eye on the pick and pop, but then also running back to the post just in time so that they couldn't kick it to the roller. It was
kind of
really
the spoils
good.
of victory is that we lost Jerome today, and Jerome is committed for the draft, and I don't think without the tournament that he would have came out at all. So we got, but
my opinion is raised most on him. I was iffy on him in the beginning of the year. I think he definitely has a spot on an NBA bench. He's such a confident.
I think he's got a spot.
It kind of reminds me of DiVincenzo, like having such a good tournament and then declaring.
Much different player.
But I mean, just like having so much success in the latter stages of the tournament.
Yeah, I think he's in the line of Malcolm Brogdon, Dennis Johnson, that type of a player. Maybe not quite as physically strong as them, but he's an NBA star.
He's got good size.
Shay, his turnover or assist ratio is incredible.
Oh, he's one of the.
He doesn't commit any turnovers.
No, he's one of the highest IQ players in the draft. His poise is remarkable.
He's 6'5".
His passing
He's
skill,
got shooting range.
His passing skill is great for.
He's got a nice floater.
And
he rebounds.
His shot profile is
I'd
really,
love to see him as
really
Celtic,
projectable.
especially if they lose Rozier.
I do think that he raised, I think probably before the tournament, he was probably a mid-second rounder guy. I think now this guy is probably going to be top 28 pick. He's going to probably be somewhere between, I do think 20 is high, but I think he's probably going to be somewhere between like 22 to 27. I bet you is the range that it goes in. I think we could. I mean, well, that's another thing that got hammered out, all the tiebreakers for the Boston Celtics draft picks. I think we got the worst end of the stick on every single one except for the Grizzlies one, because they yielded to Memphis, so that's going to be a better pick next year when it's only top 6 protected.
Oh, really?
And
I thought we lost that one.
No. Well, I mean, they got it. We didn't get the pick.
No, but I mean, I thought we were on the wrong end of that.
No, we're on the right end of that. But every other pick, we were on the wrong end. We got the worst out of a couple with the Clippers, so we got the 22nd pick there. We got the worst out of our own, so we got the 20th pick, and then we got the worst out of the tiebreaker with Sacramento, so we get the 14th. So we're going to have we definitely have the 20th and the 22nd, and probably the 14th pick unless something unusual happens. But that's a lot of ammo in a draft where I would rather be at 14 and 20 than be at 7 and be the Cavaliers.
Yeah, I'm with that.
Oh, God, yeah.
All right.
Happy for the Cavaliers.
That's right.
I mean, the
wow.
Virginia
Hey, we got
Cavaliers.
Brooklyn and Philadelphia tonight. I'm psyched for the Brooklyn-Philadelphia game
Brooklyn,
tonight.
Philadelphia, I don't know. We'll see if they can change those things they need to fix. And then we got probably another big win for the Warriors coming after that. So enjoy your playoff basketball. Adios.
You can't go back and you can't stand still.